hear me? Welcome to Self-Love Sermon. I'm your host, Ellen Gilbert. I'm a self-love coach and the founder of Luminous Leanings. How is everyone doing? Hello! Welcome! If this is your first sermon, I go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and Instagram talking about self-love. Tonight the theme is cultivating resilience. Cultivating resilience, something so integral to our self-love journey. Give everyone a moment to join. Hi, Ellen. Welcome. How are you doing? Good to see you. Another Ellen in the house. Who's with me on Facebook? Go ahead and drop a comment below letting me know that you're with us. You're here to talk about self-love and how to cultivate resilience. That is the topic of tonight's self-love sermon. Hello, welcome. What is the vibe tonight? I'm feeling some major scrunchy vibes. Also wearing a onesie, if that gives you any indication of my mood. The light is beginning to slowly wane, which is new for this time of year in Albuquerque. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, we are tilting and shifting into the autumn season. It's also Libra season and the moon is waxing. She will be full, I believe, next Friday. So these are all the seasons we're in. I'm also in my inner autumn, the premenstrual phase, a time of planning and beginning to slow down and rest. And that's the collective season that the Northern Hemisphere is in as well now. So I'm feeling a great mirroring happening with my inner energy, my inner cycle, and this outer cycle. And this is the yin way of being. This is the yin to the yang, right? The two energies. This is the feminine energy time, a time of slowing down, stepping off the treadmill. Claire's feeling laid back. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds very in keeping with the tone of tonight's message, cultivating resilience. And in fact, it was probably working with the cycles and seasons that I came upon this topic for tonight, because the other day I found myself saying, I'm in a bad mood, and I wanted to explore what that meant, what a bad mood is all about, and how we should approach bad moods, how we can approach bad days or feeling a bit down or maybe negative. Yeah, because it's all about how we relate to ourselves. That's why we're here to gather skills, develop skill sets that help us relate to ourselves with loving kindness, or at least with friendly curiosity, with ease, right? How can we suffer less? That's really why we're here, dear ones. And as always, I give this time, this container freely every week. And if you wish to make an energetic exchange, you can go to luminousleanings.com/make-a-donation. I would be so grateful. And you can also sign up for regular reminders at luminousleanings.com and following the menu to events and self-love sermons. I also, a little housekeeping here right up front, dear ones. I wanted to let you know I have a brand new offering I've just unveiled called Retreat Yourself. These are private group retreats. They are done virtually, of course. And they're a container for you to weave intentional community gatherings with your loved ones during this season of pandemic, this season of burnout and exhaustion, whatever you're feeling, we can co-create a gathering around that energy. And if you book before midnight Eastern time, so that's, I guess, what, in 4 hours from now, you'll receive 25% off. So I'm just launching it now, and I wanted to make this offer from my heart to yours. Take a look at this page, luminousleanings.com/retreat-yourself, or you can go straight to booking a free planning call with me. You'll find all the information there. So it's a lot of housekeeping, but I don't apologize for it because this is my business. This is how I make my living, and I'm very proud of what I do. I help a lot of people, and it feels really good to be in alignment with my purpose in the universe. That's why we're all here, isn't it? Because we want to suffer less, we want to feel good, we want to make an impact in the world. And so every Tuesday, I'll be here with you chatting about self-love and what that looks like practically. Because I find that this format is really useful for people. And I invite you to join in. Join in. Type your questions, your comments in the chats on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll be here answering your questions, sharing your insights. I'm so excited to dive into this topic of cultivating resilience tonight. And so just to check in before we light the candle, dear ones, what are you resisting tonight in your life, in this season? Do you have a sense of what you are pushing away, subtly or not so subtly, rejecting, bracing against, contracting against? What are you resisting? I'd love to hear in the comments. We're going to work with resistance and allowance tonight and what they have to do with cultivating resilience. And as you're typing in the chat, I will go ahead. I'm actually going to light some incense tonight. This is some cedar, really nice warming incense for the fall season. I'm just obsessed with incense lately. There's nothing like incense to ground me. And as I burn this, I'm really inviting my space to be cleansed of any darkness, any blocks, any fear. And my wish is that we all be united in the energy of love and community and growth. And so it is, dear ones. And if you hear screaming children, it's because I'm in my office and the window faces my neighbor's patio, and I guess it's the hangout spot for all the neighborhood kids. And so as the sun begins to set every evening, all of the children of the neighborhood find themselves there, and they are dancing and screaming and singing, and sometimes I think it's very cute, and other times I'm just over it, and it's really interesting how that even can wax and wane. All right, Micah, resisting change and messages my body is sending me. Oh, yes, dear one. Claire, resisting changes in my job from small to large ones. Lots of heel digging. Oof, yes, change, 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 change. The number one thing we resist. Absolutely. Impermanence, right? And yet life and the experience and the awareness of life is ever changing, ever shifting, ever evolving and devolving. And that's one of the things that resilience can really teach us is how to sit with change. And that's something that I hope you all can walk away with tonight. A little bit, just a little bit more space, just a little bit more ease, a little greasing of those wheels of change. Thank you for sharing. And if you're just joining us, the question for checking in was, what are you resisting tonight? So we would love to hear in the comments. Thank you. Yes, we're gonna start right away with a meditation because meditation really is the gateway for witnessing change and for witnessing what we're resisting. But I'll be here to guide you. You're not alone, and I want you to remember that on this journey. I also, as a disclaimer, will say if you're dealing with past trauma, traumatic memories, you still need to cultivate resilience, but you don't do this alone, okay? You do this with a therapist who maybe specializes in how to work with people that have been through such traumas. Yeah, you still want to cultivate resilience and be able to sit with the discomfort, but maybe you don't go it alone. I would not recommend that you go it alone. Okay? Yeah, because we're gonna sit with it, we're gonna face it, but I'll be here guiding you. So find a comfortable position, whether that's sitting in the chair or on the ground or lying down. Just arrive here right away, even as you begin to find the posture. Is there some resistance as the eyes begin to close? Or would you rather keep them soft, the gaze down and relaxed? It's up to you, but witnessing right away if there's a sense of, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to sit here. I know what's here. I know what shadows and what monsters lurk just behind the curtain of my awareness. You can bow to that sense of resistance. Hello, old friend. And tune into your body. Notice the outline as you sit here in space. As you make contact with the earth, the support below you. Before you change anything, where is there tension? Where is there tightness? Where is there resistance? Embodied resistance. Bow to this as well. And now slowly allow the awareness and the breath to work in tandem to create space. Slowly creating space around the resistance, around the tension, around the contraction, around the eyes, the forehead, relaxing the brain like a muscle. You can take a deep sigh in and out. Letting everything go. Just notice how you're not pushing away the resistance, because that doesn't work, does it? That only intensifies. The magic of your awareness is that you must allow and honor what is real right here, right now. And it's as though those soldiers of resistance, once met with your allowance and grace, drop their weapons, sink down to the earth, breathing in, breathing out. Simply being with what is. You can use your senses, the experience of the breath, or a visualization such as your glowing heart to anchor and provide some comfort while you're here. This is a skill, dear one. Do not make a moral judgment of yourself if you've never been taught this skill. You are worthy. And as you sit here, breathing in and out gently, allowing, notice any residual tension in the body, making any adjustments or movements or deep breaths, or maybe bringing a hand there just to say, I'm with you, I'm here, I acknowledge you. This is all a great experiment. See what helps. And if you wish to give yourself a hug now, simply say to yourself, this belongs. This belongs because it's a part of my valid and worthy experience. I am not separate in my resistance. And I don't want to suffer. And just sense your own kindness and desire, the part that cares about caring. This is self-love. Take a deep breath in and let it all go. Shake out the hands. Open the eyes. Reorient yourself in the room. Thank you for trusting me to guide you. How was that, dear ones? It was very comforting for me to channel that for you. So thank you. You know, meditation really is where it's at with resilience. I have so many students and clients that tell me meditation just isn't for me. Or I've tried it, I just can't meditate. And when we get into the questioning, which is what I do as a coach, what always comes out is that really they're uncomfortable, right? And sometimes it doesn't present itself as discomfort. It presents itself as life or death. And it feels like, no, I'm actually like, I can't handle this and I'm going to die, is how it can feel. And I'm talking about even without experiences of trauma in the past, like really intense. And it's so interesting, this fight or flight nervous system hijacking that we can throw ourselves into with simple awareness, because that's what meditation is. It's just the training of your awareness, right? That can have many forms. I would recommend, if you're new, begin with guided experiences. Begin with walking meditations, tapping, things that are more active perhaps at the very beginning, and then begin to taper off even the guided, or at least mixing in plenty of mindfulness, which is simple sitting. And that's where the resilience cultivation, it can just take off. And the point is to train the awareness. So being aware of discomfort, guess what? That counts. You are still meditating. You're not doing it wrong. The goal of meditation is not to stop thinking. When you stop thinking, you're dead. So that is certainly not the goal. And somehow this huge misconception people have, they see the Zen master sitting there and they think, dear Lord, I will never be there because I can't stop thinking. I can't shut off my brain. Well, that's not the purpose. Hopefully, over time, you will stop attaching and identifying with your thoughts and realize your thoughts can be real but not true, and that you are not your thoughts, which is very radical. But the thoughts will not stop. You're going to be witnessing, that's curious, or that's interesting. You're going to be witnessing what the mind does naturally. The brain pumps thoughts like the heart pumps blood, like the oxygens pump, like the oxygen, like the lungs pump CO2, right? In this great system of oxygen converting to CO2. It's the same with our thoughts. It's the nature of the mind. They're a byproduct of this organ we have. They're not us. And they will not kill you. Your thoughts will not kill you, even intrusive thoughts. And I have suffered from OCD and intrusive thoughts in the past, and mindfulness was the only exit ramp for that. So I'm speaking from experience there. Your thoughts will not kill you. Become aware of when you think that that is going to happen, because we can have compassion for that. It's not the case. Patience, resilience, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. That's what it's all about. Whether we're doing the deep work of personal growth, or healing a relationship, or being met with a great loss in life, being diagnosed with a terminal illness. This is all training. This is training for when the worst happens. And for many of us who meditate regularly, when the coronavirus took hit, it was like, oh, this is kind of what we've been training for. It was a very interesting response that I heard from the meditation community. So may we cultivate resilience. Some meditators in the Thai Buddhist tradition, I believe it is, say that they're preparing for death, preparing for the great release, preparing for that final moment, because they want to be so unattached to their ego that when death comes, they can just greet it and accept and allow and have a joyful death. And I take great comfort in my meditation practice when I consider it from this perspective of the great non-attachment. Of course, there are other ways to cultivate resilience, but just like I tell my clients, there's really no way around it. There's no easy fix. There's no magic potion that's going to make you resilient. The only way to gain resilience is to do the hard things, is to sit with the discomfort. And I just told you it wouldn't kill you, and yet there is resistance. I know. And you are not alone. You aren't. But this is why we sit. This is the resilience we cultivate. So a note on bad moods. I mentioned that bad moods is what kind of sparked the intention behind this topic today, because I was just in a bad mood the other day. I was like, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I knew I was going into the PMS phase of my cycle, and I knew that there's always a resistance, a pumping of the brakes to the dying of the light, the early darkness that the autumn season begins to bring, as now we're heading into winter solstice, right? We're starting that rotation, and it can be really hard for a lot of us, especially people who suffer from seasonal depression, and really just that sense of summer slipping through our fingers. It feels like life slipping through our fingers. And yet I'm here with good news that the yin energy of autumn and of winter is not only necessary for the yang energy of spring and summer, but it's also a really powerful time. It's the thin veil time. It's the time to commune with the ancestors and the spirit world. It's the time to go inward, really, and in my view, cultivate resilience. But the bad mood, I could feel it. I could that resistance. And I was like, what is this? Really, what is a bad mood? And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I realized as I was lying in bed that night, there was a sense of shame. And it was really directed inward. And I was like, that's interesting because I actually don't experience a lot of that with my spiritual practice of self-compassion. Um, at least not when I don't have anything to like put my finger on. And it was just like, what is that? Why am I directing that inward? That shame sense of either I'm a bad person because I'm in a bad mood, or did something happen? And I actually was able to trace it back to something that had happened that day. And I was like, that's what I'm feeling guilt about. But it was so under the surface, dear ones, that I almost didn't even examine it. Like it got so automatically internalized. And I think because it was such a small thing. And then I noticed there were other small things that had happened since that thing. And I was like, these are all getting added up. They're very, very tiny things, interactions, coupled with my PMS, so coupled with my hormones literally nosediving, and probably the dying light and muscle soreness left over from my backpacking trip last week, coupled with probably overworking a little bit this weekend. And it had all added up to a sense of shame, unworthiness, and just this bad mood where I'd really turned on myself. Do you all relate to this? Do you know what I'm talking about? I would love to hear in the comments just to know I'm not alone. It was horrible, but once I identified it, I was like, oh, okay. And now I can understand where this is coming from. This is the second arrow. The second arrow. So this is a Buddhist concept that I am so grateful for because I didn't even have language for this before. But it's a sense of judging ourselves. It's like the first arrow was the suffering. The first arrow was the interaction, the thing that happened. Maybe the first arrow was my hormones taking a nosedive. And then the second arrow is when I turn on myself and I say, well, you deserve this because you're bad and you should be ashamed of yourself and you're not enough and you're not worthy. And you know the talk that the inner critic can dole out. That's the second arrow. It's the greatest suffering because it's self-judgment, self-inflicted, and it actually is within our control, but it feels so automatic that until we can learn to see it and make a U-turn, it feels like it's out of our control. You know, and it really comes from this desire to control the thing that caused us suffering. It's like we have to find a reason that it happened. We're always, as humans, making meaning. So why did this happen to me? Oh, well, if it happened to me because I deserved it, then that part of my brain can just reconcile it quicker. You know? But it makes things so much worse. It's like lighter fluid for our suffering. And this is where self-compassion comes in. And it's so key, dear ones. So I want you to start noticing that it's happened and do your own digging and investigating. Like, when did this start? And then you probably find the little thing and be like, oh my gosh, that's so small. If you need to make amends, you can make amends. But otherwise, yeah, like Claire said, I was in a bad mood Saturday. Once I identified why, I started to feel better. Understanding is the bridge to compassion, whether it's understanding the point of view of another one or understanding ourselves. Bad othering, the separation that creates, whether it's, again, with someone that believes differently than us or with ourselves, is what creates the chasm and the suffering. Yeah? All right, awesome. So now you'll know, second arrow. That's what creates this bad mood. But what I want to say about bad moods, this is the interesting thing about resistance, right? If I had said, oh, I'm in a bad mood, like this is just so bad, I have to make this stop. And I had, drank a six pack or, just binged an entire season of Outlander or, know, if I had gone on a shopping spree, if I had numbed or escaped or done something like toxic positivity, if I had done something to just force myself to feel better, that would have been even worse, right? It would have made the bad mood maybe numbed for a moment, but it would come back. It's like whack-a-mole. It pops up somewhere else. So resisting it really is futile. I know there's part of you that might still think, and part of me too, that still thinks that well, but really, if I resist it, then it will go away. Like eventually, if I resist it in the right way. But I'm telling you, no, that never works. Has that ever worked in your life? Like, resistance truly is futile, just like the Borg said. It doesn't, it's ineffective, and in fact, it can make it worse. So, resisting your bad mood as well makes it worse. And culture tells us that we should either blame others, right? That's the bad othering. Oh, it's all their fault. This is why. We should buy something or just make ourselves escape or feel better, do something, or we should have this toxic positivity. These are the three things culture tells us to do. The blaming others, whew, this will wreck all your relationships real fast. It doesn't feel good, does it, when a loved one blames you or blames someone else and can't really see what they have to take responsibility for. I think what's really interesting about resilience is, you can understand that at once your suffering is probably not your fault. Like, it's probably not something you asked for. It's probably like a human problem and you didn't have a choice in being human. Maybe you did, but we don't know. So, in that sense, it's like not your fault and it is your responsibility. So it's this dialectic. It's both and at the same time. And it can be hard to reconcile because it's like I want to blame. I want to scapegoat. I want to, and y'all know, I talk about internalized capitalism, internalized patriarchy. I talk about culture. I mean, I'm talking about it right now. I'm always up on my soapbox because I want to shift culture. And that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, it's not our fault and we have a responsibility to shift it. Yeah. So please start taking responsibility because when we bring in self-understanding and self-reflection, then we can take responsibility. I think that might be one of the reasons we're running from awareness and meditation and all these things. We don't want to accept responsibility. Like, well, if I look at it, then I have to look at it and then I have to admit it. So let's just try to do the right thing and not blame others. Yeah, and just kind of see, okay, this was the series of events that occurred, and you really can let it go. You don't have to identify with what happened. The second thing culture tells us is to buy or do something, right? So, yeah, the quick fix is the escaping, the numbing that takes away the awareness of the discomfort. So start to notice when you're reaching for your credit card, when you're reaching for your Instagram to scroll, or when you're reaching for booze or food or your remote or whatever that itch is for you. These are your resistance triggers. And then the third thing is the toxic positivity, which I mentioned before. So I'm a type 7 on the Enneagram. We're called the enthusiasts. We love to feel good and to have a good time and to just be happy and to resist discomfort at all costs. And so toxic positivity is a big thing for a 7. And what that can look like is everything's fine. I'm fine. It's all good here. Nothing to see here. Good vibes only. Yeah, no. Mm-mm. That's not the reality. It can be really harmful. It's like this forced joy that buries the truth deeper. And like I said, it's going to pop up like a whack a mole, trust me, every time. So don't resist. You can ask yourself if you're not sure if you're feeling toxic positivity or like genuine positivity. You can ask yourself, like, am I resisting what's here? And you can ask yourself, am I resisting what's real? What's really going on? Because you can look at both. I'll check in here. Micah says if we blame ourselves, it's kind of reassuring in a way because we can convince ourselves we did something to deserve it. We can tell ourselves we just won't do that again and avoid the feeling. Ooh, yes, like self-victim blaming. When I talk about control, I find I'm usually talking about security. That's usually what I'm actually wanting. Oh, so good, Micah. You got under that core desired feeling of control and found that it was actually security, safety that you wanted. So good, dear one. Oh, yes. Claire says numbing sounds good. I haven't shopped on Amazon for a while. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so many numbing tendencies. And you're not bad for having those. Like that's the thing. We just want to be aware of what our strategies are and whether they're effective or ineffective. There's no moral judgment. This is a great experiment. That's the non-attachment piece. And when I talk about not identifying, it's really, this is not a moral judgment. This is how can I be most effective at this goal we talked about before, which is not suffering. It absolutely is selfish and it helps everyone around you and it helps you fulfill your purpose, which helps the world. So, yeah, it's so, oh, we have such a twisted view of shame and attachment in this world. All right, so what do we do then? Well, we have two choices with everything, dear ones. We can allow or resist. I hate to break it to you. That's it. Those are the only two choices we get. And they're both good and they're both important in different contexts. And we can have the wisdom to know when one is needed or the other. Just as nature in all her wisdom knows when it's time to shift into the yin of fall from the yang of summer, right? The two sides of the coin. And it's the same with allowing and resisting. Resistance has a place. Oh my gosh. We are seeing it right now in this political climate, in this world right now. Resistance absolutely has a place. What that looks like is taking aligned action. What that doesn't look like is panic consuming news 24/7 to where you are completely paralyzed with anxiety. That's the opposite of resistance. That's actually numbing disguised as resistance. So I want you to be really mindful of that as well, dear ones. So resistance has a place and a function. Yeah, actions are important. That's the divine masculine energy, the energy of action, of, forward motion, and there can be a lot of goodness in that, absolutely. And the yin energy is the divine feminine, this energy of slowing down and of allowing what is in order to heal, in order to rest. It's a letting go. It's a letting go, and both are so important. And just as we experienced together in the opening meditation, you can sense the contraction, relaxation, or neutrality in the body. And let that be your guide. Maybe initially, if you wanted to meditate tomorrow morning, you could just sit with that. Where is their contraction? No moral judgment of the body. Okay? Pure awareness. Where is their contraction? Curiosity. What's that about? Huh. What's that about? And see how it gives way naturally to compassion. That's all you have to do. And the compassion naturally gives way to relaxation of the contraction, of with the breath, with the awareness, with the space created by these two things. Everything wants attention. Everything wants to be noticed, to be seen and witnessed, to say, you belong, you matter, I see you, to be held. If holding your pain is too soon for that, start with witnessing it. And if witnessing is too great a word, can you just notice? Or be curious? Well, what's that about? Yeah. See what happens. Let go of control and trust the process. I'm not making this shit up. It really does work. And it's not like you get it and then you've got it and then you're good. It's like you get it and then you have to keep getting it, right? Process of forgetting and remembering. Oh, yes, forgetting and remembering. And the body's a great field of awareness, field of experimentation with these things. So we talked about how it won't kill or overwhelm you, even though it feels like it. Building the resilience, sitting with the discomfort, it won't kill or overwhelm you, even though it feels like it. But you have to first make sure there aren't unmet needs that are at play, because that kind of discomfort, the discomfort of unmet needs, requires and deserves our action. Yeah, that's the kind of thing we don't want to allow. We don't allow unmet needs in ourselves. But what is an unmet need, And I'm talking very, very practically here about food and water and shelter and community and sleep and things like this. These are like the needs we need to meet before we can maybe sit and notice the emotional discomfort that's arising, that we want to really work with building a resilience around. Yeah, because if your needs are met and you come to sit and you are met with the discomfort arises rather out of boredom, restlessness, anxiety, fear, the need to control, that is an invitation to be, to simply be. Yeah. And like I said before, these things want our attention. They want our awareness and to be held. You can imagine them as undernourished children. Like, there's that boredom one over there in the corner. There's the one that thinks she's not good enough because she doesn't have the fancy house. There's the one that thinks she'll never find love. You can kind of personify them and see them around you, and seeing them as children, because like pesky little children, they keep saying, mama, 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 watch me do this, look at this, see, look at me, look at me, look at me. And when you give them that love and you say, oh, my darling, I'm sorry I ignored you. Come and sit with me for a while. And let's simply be together. I will not turn away from you. Once we have that resilient mother energy, it's tending to these children and saying, I will. Maybe many of us didn't have a mother or a father that paid us attention as a child. So we can really tap into that inner child here and relate to these emotions and this discomfort and say to them, no, you belong. You belong right here. You are part of my experience, and I have space to include you. I think we resist it because we're afraid that if we allow it, it will take over and we will never meet that emotional need. Because like I said, it's like an undernourished child. There's an emotional need there. And so that can be part of the fear. Journal what for you, what are these emotions that you're resistant to when they come up. So maybe you try to sit in mindfulness meditation and you're overwhelmed by these emotions. Rather than just throwing your hands in the air and going on with your day, can you sit and journal exactly what happened and commit to maybe sitting a little longer tomorrow and using a timer if that helps, and just telling yourself, I will not be overwhelmed by this. This is not going to kill me. This is the messy middle. We have to feel it to heal it. Like I said, there's no shortcut, no magic potion, none of that. This is where the resilience happens. And I know it sucks to have to work at something you're not good at, or you feel like you're not good at. I fall into the good girl category of the perfectionist. When I took that quiz a few weeks back, mine was the perfectionist. And I get it, because and I'm very competitive as an Aries. When I play a game or a sport that I'm not good at, it can be hard for me. I don't like to stick with things that I don't feel I'm good at, or that I'm not winning at, or the best at, or perfect at. But remember, the goal is awareness. So being aware of the discomfort is still meeting the goal. That's what I tell myself. And I mean, I'm telling you, as recently as this morning, I was really struggling. I'm trying to extend the length of my meditations in the morning. I was resisting so hard. And I was like, what is this? And I was able to tell myself, well, I'm aware. I'm aware that this is hard. And that's the goal, is to be aware. So I'm going to feel where it is in my body. I'm going to feel and sense the quality of my thoughts and my heart. I'm going to feel and sense and be aware of how I'm relating to myself throughout this. Until the timer goes off. That's the challenge. It will not kill you. It will not overwhelm you. There's no test also. It's a practice without a test. The practice is the point when we're cultivating resilience. I mean, the test might be, like I said, the life tragedy that befalls you. And many will befall all of us. That's again what it is to be human. So we might as well practice. So you are not alone. No one else can do this for you. You can't push responsibility away, you will suffer as long as you want to. You will suffer as long as you choose to. I absolutely believe that, because suffering is the second arrow. The pain of life is what inevitably befalls us. The suffering is when we identify with it. And you will suffer as long as you choose to. I truly believe that is within your control. No one else can do the resilience for you, and you're not alone. This is a human experience. So have some freaking compassion for yourself, because my God, it is not easy. Remember, you didn't ask for it, and it is your responsibility to cultivate the resilience. I'm so proud of all of you for making it this far, if you have. I would love to hear any takeaways that have come through. I can't believe we're like 5 minutes out. I feel like I could freaking talk about this forever. I think resilience is a really fascinating topic. It's not very sexy because it doesn't feel good. So it can be hard. It can be hard to show up and do this work. I mean, it is hard. That's the nature of it. It's uncomfortable. Can you get comfortable with the discomfort? I'm here to say, yes, you can, because I have. And that doesn't mean it goes away. That means I know how to work with it. You know, I know how to create space in my body so I can have space for the thing that's happening. And guess what? That's the only way we have. A bad mood is a lack of space. Maybe we should just start calling it that, because that's what it is. It's like, I don't have space for this. Everything that happens, I don't have space for this. I don't have space to be present. I don't have space to hold for this person that's coming at me. I mean, do you notice when you're in a bad mood how every slight request on your time, energy, space feels like a frickin' assault? I mean, and we can really react harshly, sharply. And I mean, then talk about having self-compassion. That's, for me, that's where the shame really sets in and I can get locked in. But when we trace it back, we can notice that that's what happened. I just didn't have space. And not having space is okay. You just need to fill your tank. Yeah, filling the tank with self-care, with space itself, with the darkness and quiet. I've been really reveling the quiet lately. I used to be someone that always wanted to have a podcast on when I'm in the shower and, you know, music on when I'm walking my dog or talking to a friend or something. But I've been noticing like a real craving and reveling of silence lately. Oh, it's so valuable and so rare. So that would be my advice to you. Go find the silence and the space and the darkness. These are all yin medicine for a yang problem. The yang problem being the lack of space, the go-go attitude and grind culture and toxic positivity. So may you find that space and meditation. I've got to say, it is the way to give yourself space right now. And that's all it is. You're sitting in silence and you're giving yourself that space to be aware. And you are the awareness. You are not the thoughts or the shifting sands of your experience. You are the one who is aware of the natural shifting of those thoughts and experiences and sensations. Give yourself some space and allow the bad mood, allow the resistance, and just see what happens. Yeah, let's just experiment. What is your big takeaway from tonight? I would love to hear. I'm about to go away on Instagram. Thank you for joining on Facebook, those who are still here. Any takeaways you want to share? If not, no worries. Just a reminder that you have 3 hours to book your retreat and get 25% off your first retreat. I am so excited about this new offering. I think community is more important than it ever has been. So let's weave some intentional gatherings together. And and if you're doing 31 days of creative self-care, 31 mornings, I'll be in your inbox tomorrow with a reminder. But I am so excited. In the month of October, we will be sharing our calendar in our stories, and every morning setting a timer for 10 minutes and following a creative prompt for self-care. It's going to be so sweet and so much fun, dear ones. Claire says the need for control and the fear of change stems from a desire for stability. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Claire. It's a real ultimate resistance. How I see it is an ultimate resistance to our own death, which the ego is like so not about. Like, the ego wants to believe it will live forever. And yeah, yeah, so it's really releasing that attachment. Micah says mantras have been helpful. Literally just telling myself I am safe or it's okay when I'm convinced the discomfort will kill me. Yes. Also, if I'm feeling really tense, repeating ice to water to vapor helps me a lot. Yes, that's from our mutual teacher, Tara Brock. Ice to water to vapor. I love that one too. And she even describes it like in the shoulders relaxing from ice to water to vapor. I love that. Thank you for reminding me of that, Micah. Yeah, the dissolution, the entropy. This is the nature of things. And I think our higher self is eternal. It's the awareness. It goes back to something in my spiritual view. And that also helps me remember, like, there is something that goes on. And it gives me great peace and comfort. All right, dear ones, thank you so much for joining me. Sending you so much love, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Be resilient. You got this. You are brave and strong and courageous, and you can do hard things.